Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise it's the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, we're going to be getting into some heavy material this evening. We're going to be taking back our history. You're going to start to see why they don't want us reading other books. They don't want us to apply the same principles that we use for the scriptures to historical books as well. Here a little, there a little, getting pieces of the puzzle from multiple sources in order to get a much better understanding. Now we understand that through Psalms 83, our history was taken from us. And you're going to see exactly how they've done that. And they try to do it even till today. And as we get more and more of our history back, the world seems to delve more into chaos. Seems to be a correlation between us getting our history back, our knowledge back, and the rest of the world going into chaos. Like as we learn who we are, they're learning who they are. We're learning that we are the true sons and daughters of the Most High. And they're learning that they're not. They're learning that they have nothing to do with our power. And it seems as if they come to that realization, their world is just turning upside down and just goes deeper and deeper down a hole. So it's like we're coming out of the hole, we're crawling our way out of it, and they're quickly falling into one. So let's get into this because we got a lot of stuff to cover. The first book we're going to get into this evening is Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance. Now, right from jump, they always try to give us the white version, Braveheart version of the people that were living over in Ireland, Scotland, and Britain. And that's been shoved down our throats for the last, few hundred years. I used to love that movie Braveheart, but we know that was our people. But they always do the remake and put the white face on all of the people. Okay? This is going to tell you about who were the ancient Britons, who were the ancient people in these lands. Now, we already know who they were from the book we were blessed with by the sister, about the Black Celts. But it's actually talked about in other books as well. If you get the first editions, early editions, before they try to write it all out. And when you start to see them going after first editions and then changing all the other editions, that's all part of the Psalms 83 conglomerate to write us out of history. You see it in all these different books, how they're trying to write us out of history. They're trying to take Israel out of history and put themselves in as if they've been there the whole time. But you're going to see they're going to tell the truth right here. So right there, it says in the second paragraph, speculation has run somewhat wild over the question of the composition of the early Britons. But out of the clash of rival theories, there emerges one, and only one, which may be considered as scientifically established. We have certain proof of two distinct human stocks in the British Islands at the time of the Roman conquest. And so great an authority as Professor Huxley has given his opinion that there is no evidence of any others. So they're saying all the way up until the time of the Romans. I don't know if that was around 50 BC. There's only two groups in these areas, but they're going to talk about who was the original group right now. Okay, the earliest of these two races would seem to have inhabited our islands. You like that? How they're just talking about our islands. They get it late and they're talking about it's our islands. Like they've always been here. They're always trying to slip themselves into these things. Okay, but our islands from the most ancient times, and may for our purpose be described as Aboriginal. It was the people that built the long barrows, and which is variously called by ethnologists the Iberian Mediterranean, the Berber, Basque, Solarian, or Escurian race. So we already know who the Berbers are, the Iberians are. They're going to tell you right here. In physique, it was short. Okay. Swarthy. All right. We already know what swarthy is. All right. Dark skinned people. Dark hair, dark eyed, and long skulled. Its language belonged to the class called Hamitic, Hamites, so called black people. And it's funny, I looked up swarthy on Google, and it kind of tried to give you that uh, Mediterranean guy who's actually got a really dark tan. They're always trying to go in there and mess things up, always trying to, muddy the waters. Oh, it's just a white guy with a tan. No, it wasn't. These were our people that were there. They're the Aborigines. They're the Aboriginals from all over the place, and they're going to admit that as well. You guys come in later and then whitewash everything. Okay? So again, Hamitic. The surviving types of which are found among the Galas, Abyssinians, Berbers, and other North African tribes. So these are a bunch of black people. They were the Aborigines. They were the original people that were there. Now, when you start talking about the Druids and the great things that they were doing this way before so-called white people were on the land. So these were our people as well. And we're going to get into that. This is how we take our history back. The Most High is going to leave certain things in there. When you actually start to compare it with Scripture, you'll start to see this, that this is our people. This is our history. And this is the way the Most High has used the Gentiles to maintain our history. So that when we were to awaken right now, we'd be able to get our history back. You don't have a great people as the Druids and everything else, and they're great societies. And then, don't have a people to equate them to. So they're going to try to equate it to a different race as they do through the pictures. And so the vast majority of the people, the Googleites and people like that, are people who are going to look at, just pictures. Oh, look, they were all white people. Well, see, people that want to believe that, like the vast majority of the world, they want to believe that it was so-called white people that were the Druids and that were the ones that set up these great societies over in Britain and Ireland. But we know that's not the case. Those great societies were set up before the white people even stepped foot on the islands. They had nothing to do with the great accomplishments that were going on before. So let's continue. And it seems to have come originally from some part either in eastern, northern, or central Africa. And for any black people, it's always Africa. We can skip all that. We already know how they always try to equate them to Africans. But the whole point is that the Aboriginals, the people that were here, were so-called black people that look like people from Africa. And we already know that the Hebrews and Africans look alike. Talks about that in the scriptures. Are you not like the Ethiopians? Spreading thence, it was probably the first people to inhabit the valley of the Nile. Okay. But see, they like to make it seem like the people in Egypt were so-called white people or, people with tans. And it sent offshoots into Syria and Asia Minor. The earliest Hellenists found it in Greece under the name of Pelasgoi. So there were so-called black people there before the Hellenists and Greece. The earliest Latins in Italy as the Etruscans. So the Etruscans, so-called black people, were there before you see the so-called Italians. And the Hebrews in Palestine as the Hittites. So it's talking about these certain Aboriginal people that are in all these different lands before the so-called white people showed up all over the place. They were there in Greece already. They were there in Spain and Italy, or Italy already. So they were not the original people. So these people that were practicing all these different magically and otherworldly things were all doing these things before the so-called white people showed up. Now let's get into this a little bit more in a little bit. It spread northward through Europe as far as the Baltic and westward along the Atlas chain to Spain, France, and our own islands. In many countries, it reached a comparatively high level of civilization. But in Britain, its development must have been early checked. Okay, so you're talking about a high level of civilization in all these different areas. Okay, now here we go. It held, we're skipping on down here. It held our islands till the coming of the Celts. Now, I'm talking about I'm sure the Aborigines. Okay, and you got these certain white people, these Celts, okay, showed up later. Okay, these Celts who fought with the Aborigines, dispossessed them of the more fertile parts, subjugated them, even amalgamated with them, but certainly never extirpated them, could not get rid of them. Okay, in the time of the Romans, they were still practically independent in South Wales. In Ireland, they were long unconquered and are found as allies rather than serfs of the Gaels, ruling their own provinces and preserving their own customs and religion. Nor, in spite of all the successive invasions of Great Britain and Ireland. So the Aborigines were still in control of most of their areas here. Okay? It says, are they yet extinct? Let me see here. Is this the right one? That's the right one. Okay. Are they yet extinct or so merged as to have lost their type, which is still the predominant one in many parts of the West, both of Britain and Ireland, and is believed by some ethnologists to be generally upon the increase all over England? It's like the Hebrews. They couldn't breed us out. They couldn't kill us off. We were always there, and we were always growing. That was what was happening in Egypt, and it was still happening here on the islands. Now let's take a quick look at this second group of so-called Celts that showed up way later. Okay, the second of the two races was the exact opposite to the first. It was tall, fair, light-haired, blue or gray-eyed, broad-headed people called popularly the Celts, who belonged in speech to the Aryan family, their language finding its affinities in Latin, Greek, Teutonic, and Slavic. We're going to stop right there. So-called like white people, just like we looked at in Black Celts, it talks about the so-called Aryans coming later, and they brought their languages, which was like Spanish or Latin, French, okay, those different languages. So you got a total opposite, just like Jacob and Esau, same kind of thing, the opposites. Jacob and Esau were opposites. Now you got the first group, the Aborigines, the Hebrews, who has a high level of civilization. And you got these guys right here who aren't. Same thing happened when they came over to the New World, right? Which we know was the Old World. When the Spaniards came over here, it was a total opposite of the Aborigines. Dirty, right? Only caring about money, not caring about nature, not caring about, how we're going to leave things for our future. Only worrying about money and what they can get in the here and now. The total opposite. So things that happened over in Europe and all these different areas happened here as well. It was a worldwide takeover. Okay? So this right here just confirms what we already learned, okay, about who was the original people in Britain and Ireland, and actually in all these other areas, in Greece, okay, in Italy. All these different areas were already inhabited by dark skinned people. So-called black people, swarthy people. And that's a huge thing because people act like, oh, well, when they leave here, they're going to go right to Europe. Well, Europe's not their land either. So who in the hell knows where these people are going to be going? Okay, because they were not the originators of any of these lands. All right, now we're going to get into something else. Let's continue here, though. Talking about the religion, okay? Because this is really important about the religion, okay, of these two groups. We'll skip on down here. Let's see here. Well, let's actually take a look up. Let's start at the top. Let's see. Britain, and that is was their practice to send their theological students across the channel to learn its doctrines at their purest source. So people were sending their theological students to learn in Britain and Ireland from the purest source. That would be the Aborigines. That would be our people. They were coming over there to learn, okay, from the purest source. To trace a cult backwards, and they use all of these words like pagans and cults to describe our people. But that would make sense though, right? Because it's the devil. The devil's not going to call himself that. He's going to call whoever's against him. He's going to call whoever's his adversary. He's going to paint them in a negative light. So, and that's what they've done with these books, by saying cults and pagans and esoteric and all these things that it'll keep you away from it, because you think that Christianity is godly. You think that Christianity is of God. So therefore, if they tell you not to look at something, your first inclination is to listen to what they say, to think that they're telling you the truth. But remember, they are the representatives of Satan. They don't want you to find the truth. So they're going to paint the truth in a very negative light. But what has the churches told you that's true? Remember, they're all have come together against the Most High's chosen people. So therefore, they're going to paint us in a negative light and all of our information the same way. That's why the Most High says that he hides a thing, and it's up to the kings to search out a matter. Most High has used Satan to hide all of this information worldwide. Satan's put up his minions to keep you from reading and keep you from studying and keep you from finding your own information. And so many people, listen to, the seeds of Satan, and they won't look. But it's time for us to get this information. It's time for us to get this understanding, and that's what the Most High is bringing out right now. So don't get all thrown off with these words that they use, cults and all this other stuff, because it doesn't matter what they say. They're the ones that are doing Satan's bidding. And are we going to listen? Or as us as a people, are we going to keep listening to Satan and his tricks and keep falling for those things? So again, to trace a cult backwards is often to take a retrograde course in culture. And it was no doubt in Britain, which Pliny the Elders tells us might have taught magic to Persia, that the sufficiently primitive and savage rites of the Druids of Gaul were preserved, and their still more savage and primitive forms. It is curious a corroboration of this alleged British origin of Druidism that the ancient Irish also believed their Druidism to have come from the sister island. Their heroes and seers are described as only gaining the highest knowledge by traveling to Alba. However, we may take it as certain that this Druidism was the accepted religion of the Celtic race. Now, we're not talking about so-called white people. We're talking about the Hebrews. And what they call it, I said we had power. Our people had power. Who was, you go through the scriptures, who was the people that had power? The Hebrews. They were the ones that, their power was above all the other nations because they were the sons and daughters of the living God. So when you start reading these books, you start to see how much power they had, how much information they had, how much knowledge they had. You then must know who was the Most High dealing with. Who did he give knowledge and understanding to? Who did he give power to? His people. So therefore, these must be his people. But we're going to get into this even more. Certain scholars look deeper for its origin, holding its dark superstitions and savage rites to bear the stamp of lower minds than those of the poetic and manly Celts. Okay, and this is how they've really done a great job of hiding information by talking about remember this second group that comes in way later, who's a more savage group, and then try to make seem like those were the ones that were originally there. And when you look at the pictures in the book, it's like people that look like them as being the Druid priests and all this other stuff. But remember, they're the total opposites. And if the Aborigines are the ones that had a high society, then how is the other group who doesn't have a high society, how are they the Druids? How are they the priests with all this knowledge and understanding? Remember, they're the opposite. So if the first group is, the intellectually superior, then how all of a sudden the opposite is better? It's not. Professor Rise inclines to see, okay, three forms of religion in the British Islands at the time of the Roman invasion. The Druidism of the Iberian Aborigines. So you see that Druidism is with the Iberian, swarthy, okay, Aborigines. So we see all these pictures of these so-called white Druids. You know they're lying, because this guy's telling you right here. That's why you got to look at what they say, not the pictures that they put up. Look at what they're saying. Again, the Druidism of the Iberian Aborigines. So we're going to get into what that means in a little bit. But then check out the next part. The pure polytheism of the Brythons, who, having come later into the country, had mixed but little with the natives. So they didn't mix with us. We didn't mix with them. We knew to be what? Holy. We knew to be separate. So, and that's how you, when you look at these books, you look at their attributes to find out who they are. We weren't about mixing with the other nations, right? So right here, what does it say? The pure polytheism, believing in many gods, of the Brythons, who, having come later into the country, had mixed but little with the natives. And it makes it seem like that they chose not to mix with us. I'm sure it was us not wanting to mix with them. Okay, because that was actually part of our covenant. And the mingled Aryan and non-Aryan cults of the Goidals, who were already largely amalgamated with them. Okay, so just right there, it's already telling you the Druids are from the Iberian Aborigines. And that's always, trying to make like all the black people from Africa are all from that area, Northern Africa and all that other stuff. We understand what's going on. Okay? Yes, we all look alike to you guys. We get that, all right? But we're not all the same people. The ones who have this higher knowledge understanding it's already being expressed today. You can see it now. You don't see all black people on the same level spiritually, intellectually, through this knowledge and understanding that the Most High has given us right now. We're not. You can't tell who's who right now by looking at people. You can tell them by their fruits. And you can see the ones that are actually dealing with Satan too, because they're the ones that are trying to keep you from looking at anything. They're the ones that are trying to keep you status quo. They're the ones trying to get you, hey, get back to Africa. We're all about Africa. We're all Africans because we all come from Africa. All black people only come from that one area. But this tells you already before that we were all over the place. Thousands of years before the white people even showed up in a lot of these places, we were already there. Already had high societies all over the place. We're going to get into that shortly, even more so. This is very important because as we get into the whole thing with the Druids, just remember this part. Druidism of the Iberian Aborigines, swarthy black people. Those are your Druids. Okay? So make sure you keep that in your mind. I know it's been pounded into our minds that they're all white people. But they weren't. That's why they always say, Irish people came over here and they were enslaved and look at them. No, they weren't. Not like us. Don't give me that. The first group, the Aborigines, those are the ones that you guys enslaved. The others might have been doing something else. 7 years of indentured servitude ain't the same thing. But this is what happens in your guys' history. That's why, what does it say? You Gentiles are going to say, our fathers have inherited lies. When you start going through these books, you start getting this information, you start applying the scriptures to these things, you start to see how these lies are coming out, how the Most High is exposing their lies. And it's an absolutely beautiful thing. That's why, I see like the awakening the way it's been. Like we had to get a great understanding of the script of the Bible first. Then we start getting into the other books and get more understanding there. Then we start to get the second stick and we start getting into the Book of Mormon and the seal portion and these other books. Then we start getting into these history books, and then you can take all that information the Most High has blessed us with to be able to, dodge the hijack and see the lies and see the truth and see, the attributes of the certain people and how they fit our people. You're not just going to be able to open up books and say, oh, look, it says it right here. The black people were the Hebrews. That's not what it's going to say. Oh, the Druids were the Hebrews. No, you need to look deeper. You have to understand your culture. You have to understand the way the Most High has set up our nation. Once you start to see that and understand that, then you start to see how, oh, well, that sounds like stuff that we would do. That sounds like stuff the Most High gave us. That sounds like stuff that the Most High gave Noah in order for us to be able to combat the things that the fallen angels were going to do. You see, and that's how you understand history. Oh, now I see why these books are $600, $700. Why there's only one book or two books, that you can actually get your hands on. Oh, now I see why these books are $2,000 and $2,500. Because once you actually have the Holy Spirit and she opens your eyes to be able to see things, then you can start to find your history. Then you can start to find out how you need to connect back to the Most High. You see, the Most High is blessing us to be able to come together, work together in order to get this information and then pass it to our people and to the rest of the world. And so that you don't see a whole lot of people going into all these different historical books and then making the connections between our people and these other people in the past, or the enemy and the things that they've been doing. You're gonna be see them too, just like you saw Jacob and Esau in the last couple of pages. You saw Jacob, the Iberians, the Druids. You saw Esau, the total opposite just shows up later on. Not as smart, not as refined. Then you can see Jacob and Esau on these kinds of things. You see them right here talking about the religions and the Druidism of the Iberian Aborigines. They ain't gonna say, oh, these are, they're gonna tell you that the Aborigines are Hebrews. They're just gonna say it, in another way, and you got to figure it out. But the vast majority of our nation, they don't want to figure things out. They want to just be told. No, man, if it doesn't say it directly, then it's not true. This is where you have to be able to have some discernment. Okay, let's continue. Let's see. But many authorities dissent from this view, and indeed were not obliged to postulate borrowing from tribes in a lower state of culture to explain primitive and savage features underlying a higher religion. The Aryan nations must have passed equally with all others through a state of pure savagery. And we know that the religion of the Greeks, in many respects, so lofty, sheltered features and legends as barbarous as any that can be attributed to the Celts. Of the famous teaching of the Druids, we know little, owing to their habit of never allowing their doctrines to be put into writing. Again, what does that sound like? We were passing down our doctrines, word of mouth. We're not trying to write things down, trying to hide our doctrines from the other nations. Who does that? The Hebrews did. Why is that? Because this doctrine was given to our nation. I'm sure we had it written down. We just weren't going to let them get it. It's actually how we had books from Adam given to Seth, given to Enoch, right? Given to Abraham, given down to our children, but they weren't allowed to have it. So just because they didn't see the books doesn't mean we didn't have any. But the whole point was that we kept them from getting the books because we already knew that as soon as they got them, what were they going to do? Start painting their own faces in our books, just like I talked about in the book of Maccabees, correct? And our records aren't for the other nations, right? They were only given to us. We weren't supposed to be giving them to the other nations. But see, they've got them, and then they hide that fact. Let's go there real fast. Psalms 147, 19 and 20. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. As far as as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So right here, that fits right there. Of the famous teaching of the Druids, we know little, owing to their habit of never allowing their doctrines to be put into writing. Instead, we just didn't let them get the books because it wasn't given to them. So we got the Druids or the Aborigines, swarthy. They have high society, high culture, and they don't let the Gentiles get their records. Who is this fitting so far? Sounds like us to me, doesn't it? Caesar, however, roughly records its scope as one of their leading dogmas. He says, they inculcate this, that souls are not annihilated but pass after death from one body to another. And they hold that by this teaching, men are much encouraged to valor through disregarding the fear of death. They also discuss and impart to the young many things concerning the heavenly bodies and their movements, the size of the world and of our earth, natural science, and of the influence and power of the immortal gods. I'll stop right there. Okay? So we got, they inculcate this, that the souls are not annihilated. We know about people coming back. We know the Most High, that we come back. Most High, prepares us and tells us what we're going to be doing, before we even get here. It's not just open to chance. Let's see. How about Jeremiah 1:5? Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Most High already sets us up before we even get here. We already have tasks, and he already equips us to be able to fulfill these tasks. And, being able to stand up for, even for fearing death right there. Let's see here. By this teaching, men are much encouraged to valor through disregarding the fear of death. Remember in the book of Maccabees, when the mom has all of her kids that are not refusing to eat the pork, and they're all being killed. Our people were able to do that because we knew that eventually, hey, we're going to come back. We know that the Most High is going to redeem us. That's all part of, the scriptures. Okay. Now we go also about they also discussed in part to the young many things concerning heavenly bodies and their movements, the size of the world and our earth, natural sciences. Okay. Now we already know, was it Seth that was the one that knew about the stars and the planets, and he imparted that information down to Enoch, and Enoch put that down to Abraham, and Abraham gave that to his children. Who the Most High deal with and gave that information to? His people. He gave that to his line. So he started talking about these kinds of things, and this wisdom and this knowledge. Who's that given to? The Hebrews. Who's fitting the Druids? The Hebrews. Just because they gave us a different name, don't look at the name, look at their attributes and see who it fits. This is our history. These are the great things that we were doing. This is how the Most High has kept our records safe for us to get at this point. No, so immortal gods, wait, we're not even going to get into that. We know they're going to throw some things in there to throw things off. But later on, they talk about how we only believe in one supreme power. But here they talk about immortal gods. They do that kind of stuff all the time. They knew that the Druids and the people only believed in one supreme power. But they do that stuff like that, so people will be like, oh, all this other great information, just disregard that, because at the end it says immortal gods, plural. Come on now. Now it says, the Romans seem to have held their wisdom in some awe, though it is not unlikely that the Druids themselves borrowed whatever knowledge they may have had of science and philosophy from the classical culture. See, and they can't say that they don't know where they got the information from, but they're going to try to, guess where they got it from. You see what I'm saying? Look, they didn't share this information with you. They weren't sharing their records with you. So you didn't know where they got it from. But they got to kind of speculate always, because Esau wants to think that they know everything and they can figure everything out. But they don't know where they got this information from. They're not going to tell you that they got it from the Most High. They're not going to tell you that, because then you'll realize that those are the Most High's chosen people. Okay? Classical culture. That their creed of transmigration was not, however, merely taken over from the Greeks. Seems certain from its appearance. Okay. Well, we're going to stop on that one for right now. But see, they want to make it seem as if, well, oh, they didn't take it from the Greeks. Well, we know they didn't take it from the Greeks because the Greeks weren't anywhere around. But they always want to make it seem like the Greeks were the ones that came up with all this stuff. They're going to find out real quick that the Greeks didn't know anything. And they were happy when we visited them and spent some time with them and shared our knowledge with them. We're going to talk about that right now. We're going to get into this book right here, Druidism, the Ancient Faith of Britain. Now, again, check out the attributes. Don't listen to what they say. Who do these people sound like? What is it? Who do they fit? You get these great people who had a great society, who had great knowledge, understanding, that the people were in awe of. The Romans were in awe of their knowledge and understanding. And remember, the Romans want to act like as if they're the pinnacle, but they were nothing compared to these people. Check this part, the highlighted part. Although in Britain, the Romans issued stringent laws for the suppression of the Druidical groves and altars, there is no proof of the eradication of Druidism at that time. It had taken root too deeply not to spring up again after the Romans had taken their departure from the island. The suppression of Druidism was essential to the Roman conquest of Britain. The two were incompatible. This is huge. Roman religion and Druidism were incompatible. Why is that? Because the Roman religion and the Romans were all pawns of Satan. So what does that make then the Druids? The people of the Most High. The Romans are always going against the people of the Most High. See, the other religions of the world, they don't care about. You can be, like, what is it, like, look today. You can be a Catholic, but that's okay. If you don't want to be a Catholic, you can be a Christian. You could be, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, Muslim. They don't care. Why is that? Because they're not the total polar opposites. They're all serving Satan. So if you're all serving Satan, they don't care how you serve them as long as you're serving Satan. That's why all these religions can say, can be here. No problem. Because they all serve the same God, Satan. But the Druids, no. No. They can't stay. We can't have them running around here, practicing their religion. Because they serve the Most High. And if they serve the Most High, they're the polar opposites. And we both can't be here at the same time. But check this part out before we're going to go a little bit more in depth in this, but let's continue real fast. The two were incompatible. Augustus Caesar recognized that Druidism would be a source of danger unless it could be assimilated to Roman ideas and practices. And see, that's what they do with all your other religions. They assimilate them. You guys act like you guys are all different. Christians act like they're so different from Catholics, but you go to church on Sunday, you do Easter, you do Christmas, you believe in white Jesus, you believe in the rapture, you're a Catholic. You assimilate the Roman ideas into your religion and think that you're something better, but you're not. You all serve Satan. So it says right here, unless it could be assimilated to Roman ideas and practices. And so he prohibited Roman citizens from seeking initiation into the Druidical mysteries, a step also forbidden by the Druids themselves. It's like, oh, the Romans were like, oh, hey, my citizens, you guys can't become Druids. The Druids were like, hey, don't worry, that wasn't an option anyways. That wasn't even an option. You're not allowed to become a Druid. You're not allowed to come in with us. You see that? Again, who does that fit? That fits our people to the T. So we're not going to let you guys come up in here, because as soon as you guys come up in here, you're going to think you're going to be running everything. You think you're going to be teaching us our scriptures. Oh, no, that's not what that means. This is what Paul was really trying to say, just like you guys do now. Oh, no. Jesus didn't come. No. Jesus came for everybody. He didn't just come for the Jews. He came for everybody. John 3:16, that means everybody. You see, I mean, that's what you guys have been doing. No, give me your guys' books. I'm gonna tell you guys what you guys, how you guys are messing all this up. How you can't really break this down. Let us break it down for you. You see, you guys were never allowed to become priests. This is kind of funny they were talking about that. But what we want to talk about right now is the suppression of the Druidism was essential to the Roman conquest of Britain. The two were incompatible. Incompatible. Now we're going to get to some scripture real quick. Now let's take a look at the Gospel of Thomas. If you have the Lost Scriptures books on page 23, it says, "A good man brings forth good from his storehouse. An evil man brings forth evil things from his evil storehouse." We know a good tree can only produce good fruit. A bad tree can only produce bad fruit. Same thing right here. That's why they're incompatible. Because the Druids were the Most High chosen people, and they were producing good fruits. The Romans and the Roman Catholic Church, evil fruits. That's how it is. Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, if you don't know what that is, 12:3. "There can no good come of him that is always occupied in evil. Give to the godly man and help not a sinner." So again, there can no good come of him that is always occupied in evil. That's the church. They're always occupied in evil. They're always occupied in, what is it they were after? Money, gold, right? Enslaving the children of God. That's what they've been worried about. So no good can come from them. That evil fruit, that evil tree. Okay? You see that? Let's see what's next one over here. Coptic Gospel of Thomas, page 24. Okay? Lost Scriptures book, page 24. I'm going to say verse 49. "Blessed are the solitary and elect, for you will find the kingdom. For you are from it, and to it you will return." Good fruit, right there. The people who produce good fruit, they are from the kingdom, and they will return back to it. Blessed are the solitary and elect. And that's when you come into this truth, you become solitary, alone, because the vast majority of the world is all about Satan, all about that evil fruit that they want to enjoy. That's why these two are they're not compatible. Druidism and the Roman Catholic Church, not compatible. They're the polar opposites. And then once they, took over, they just painted the Druids in a very negative light. They hid who the original Druids were, and then they called them pagans and cults and everything else. And the vast majority of the world won't look into it and see what was really going on, because it's not their job to anyways. Let's take a look here about John 8. St. John 8, verse 44. "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it." And see, that's the Roman Church, this Catholic Church, these Christian churches. They are their father, the devil. See, that is a murder from the beginning. What have they been doing? Murdering the Most High's chosen seed. They abode not in the truth. Are they telling the truth about anything? Absolutely not. Remember, the truth, they were given the truth. That's why many of the books, the original forms, have so much truth in them. And then as they make new editions, the truth gets changed. It gets bastardized. It gets hidden. Just like the Bible. They had, originally 80 books, King James Version. Then they took out books. They had a bunch of precepts in them. took the precepts out. Then they, we need a new version, NIV version, so it's easier to understand. So they changed up stuff, took things out. As time has progressed, things have gotten less and less and less with understanding, because that's how the devil is, right here in John 8:44. Right? Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. There is no truth in the devil. So that's why these two are incompatible. That's why they said, "Oh, you, my Roman citizens, you guys are not allowed to become Druids." And the Druids are like, "Don't worry, that wasn't an option. That's not an option." So you see how you see the Hebrews, they weren't letting the Gentiles come in. Hey, you can cleave, that's one thing, but you're not going to come in here and run and stuff. That's something totally different. Let's continue. The Druids saying with vain superstition that the Gauls had anciently taken Rome, but since the seat of Jove had remained intact, her empire had also remained. Now the gods had given a sign of their wrath by a fatal conflagration, and portended to the nations north of the Alps the supremacy over human affairs. According to Strabo, the Gauls held to the opinion that as the number of Druids increases, the earth produces its fruits in greater abundance. In all probability, that's actually huge, right? Let's read that again. The Gauls held to the opinion that as the number of Druids increases, the earth produces its fruits in greater abundance. What scripture does that sound like? Which one does that sound like to you guys? Remember that one about how the earth, when the righteous are ruling, the earth is like happy, right? But when the wicked are in rule, the earth mourns. Let's get that real quick. Let's get that real fast. Let's see here. Is it Proverbs 29:2? Let's go there real fast. 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Now, same kind of things going on right here with the earth. When the righteous are in authority, the earth is rejoicing. But when the wicked beareth rule, the earth mourns. The people are on the earth. When the wicked are in rulership, the people and the earth are going to mourn. Do you not see the earth mourning right now? Do you not see all of the eruptions going on with the earth, with the volcanoes? Do you not see all of the earthquakes going on? Do you not see how all of these crops are failing? Do you see how all the water, is being tainted? See how the air is being tainted? See how the animals are mourning? There's all these fish dying off. Is not the earth mourning right now? Who's in rulership? Who is this world given to? The wicked. But you see right here, when the number of Druids increases, the earth produces its fruits in greater abundance. That's because the righteous are increasing. When the righteous are ruling and increasing, the earth is going to produce more fruits in greater abundance. It's going to produce for the people. Just like it talks about in Joel 2, remember? The Most High sweeps the wicked off the land, how all of a sudden the earth is producing more and more for the people. Is that not fitting scripture? Yes, it is. Is it not fitting the Hebrews? Yes, it is. Is it not fitting Joel 2 also? Yes, it is. Is it fitting Proverbs 29:2? Yes, it is. We're seeing how things are going with the wicked in power. It's not going well at all. Did you see that right there? In all probability, when Claudius decided to exterminate Druidism, It was because it seemed to contain within itself, in a concentrated form, okay, the surviving national feeling of the Gaulish tribes, which, in view of the annexation of Britain, might appear a real danger to the peace of the western provinces. So this is when they're trying to get rid of Druidism. Okay, so skip on down here. Long passages could be quoted from the writings of this saint, showing that paganism still triumphed over Christianity. And of course, paganism is the Hebrew way of life, painted in a very negative light once again. And their Christianity was, who was it? Satan's religion. Okay, over Christianity in many parts of France in his day. And there is no reason to doubt from his statements that the mysterious rites with which the Druids had always honored their divinities were then still practiced. It may even be assumed that Druidism alone retarded the free passage of Christianity to all parts of France. Remember now, what did it say? That Druidism is the total opposite of their Christianity. Druidism was the only thing standing in the way of Satan's religion. All the other religions had been absorbed into Christianity and they were allowed to stay. But Druidism was the only one that stood up as an adversary, as a counter to Satan's Christianity. No different than today, right? No different than today. You got all these religions all over the world. None of them say anything about the horrible things that these religions do. None of them are saying anything about the lies that they're still promoting. None of them talk about who the real Hebrew Israelites are. None of them talk about how we are fulfilling prophecy day by day. None of them are talking about how we are the ones that have been raised up to teach the world, to be a light into the world. We are the only ones that are standing in the way of Satan's church, of Satan's lies. We're the only ones that have been raised up to tell the truth. Same thing happening right here. We're going to continue with some more of this here. Pliny, in his Natural History, says that Tiberius Caesar caused the Druids to disappear. Yet he admits in another passage that they were still in existence and superintended the religious ceremonies in the time of Vespasian. His language leads to the assumption that all that was accomplished in the reign of Tiberius Caesar was the temporary suppression of the outward observances of Druidism, or particularly the practice of human sacrifices. He said, I'm not even going to get into the whole thing about this whole human sacrifices, okay? In many parts of Britain, moreover, the Romans permitted the natives to retain many of their laws and customs and to be governed by their own princes. And here, in all probability, they would continue the performance of their ancient and sacred mystical rites. According to Strabo, the Druids still acted as arbiters in public and private matters, though presumably they had not the power to deal with murder indictments as formerly they had. Okay, so we're going to continue with that. We're going to continue to this part right here. Now, of course, sorry about that. I covered the top there. Let me go to the book. Okay, so at the bottom of this page, I didn't get the. Pages out of order. Mm-hmm. Okay. Looks like I didn't get page 18. Well, I'm gonna have to read some of page 18. Okay, so let's go ahead and just listen right now. Okay, if I have to make another video with that page, I will. Did I get it? 19? Okay. We'll listen to some of 18 real fast, okay? Druidism perished then by the edge of the sword wielded by the Romans. The foundation of the great Roman schools, such as that at Autun, deprived the Druids of many of their pupils. In Ireland, Druidism did not, however, disappear until about AD 560. Okay? But the whole thing is, it says Druidism perished then by the edge of the sword wielded by the Romans. So the Romans had their blessing. Remember now, that's what Esau's blessing was, to be able to destroy the Hebrews with the sword. And that's exactly what they did. Okay? But they weren't able to destroy all of it. Okay? Now let's go over here to page 19. Okay. And it says that Druidism is said, okay, at the top there, to have found an asylum in Ormorica, some ages after it had been proscribed and suppressed in the rest of Gaul. I'm not sure exactly where the Ormorica is. It looks a lot like America, but I'm not sure. Okay. Now you can start to see some of the things that they've done. Take a look down here. The Pythagorean brotherhoods and the institutions of Numa constitute, we believe, one of the unrecognized aspects of these ancient Cenobitic communities, of which our convents, monasteries, and abbeys became the successors. Okay, a new spirit animating these old bodies. They went and built all of these different places on top of our holy sites. So you see a new spirit animating these old bodies. Yeah, you got the new spirit taking over our sacred places. You got the spirit of Satan being unleashed on our holy lands, on our holy grounds. So it's kind of funny if they said that. That's exactly what happened. A new spirit animating these old bodies. The dominating idea of these monastic and conventual institutions is not, in point of fact, an idea emanating from, but is long anterior to the gospel. The Druidism and the things that they had was way before Christianity. And that's what they're admitting right here. Okay? If we wish to look for a precedent less removed from the Christian origin, it must be searched from among the Essenes or in Egypt. You got the book of the Essenes, talking about these people being there way before, and the Egyptians way before Christianity. So it does not originate with papal Rome. See, as much as they want to say they're the first, because they're supposedly the first church, you're the first Christian church of Satan. That's what papal Rome is. They're not the first church. The church means a called out. The people that are called out. It's not about a building. But the people who are this Christian church here, the ones called out by Rome, that's the one that comes way later. And that's that abominable church. So again, it does not originate with papal Rome. We believe that its origin will be found in the Chaldea or Media, on which the Western monks, as well as the Irish and Scottish Druids, founded their model. Montalembert recognizes that Cenobitism is long anterior to the Christian era. So all of these other ways of doing things, and Druidism and stuff like that, is way before the Christians. So, like Mithraism, however, Druidism as a distinctive institution eventually was swept from off the face of the earth. Psalms 83. Again, scripture being fulfilled. Druidism right there eventually was swept, or Druidism as a distinctive institution eventually was swept from off the face of the earth. Was that not what all of the countries and the people, the nations have come together to do? They weren't, they were sweeping off the name of Israel. It was sweeping off their practices, sweeping off the knowledge and understanding that they had. All of that, they hide. They've hidden. So that they could actually slide in and make it seem as if their Greek philosophers are the ones that came up with all this great stuff. That's why when you go to school and you learn, they always go to the Greeks. Like the Greeks were the ones who came up with all this stuff. But they didn't. I think that's a huge part right there, and it just shows you more prophecy being fulfilled. It says, but the fact must not be overlooked when speaking of the supplanting of Druidism by Christianity. that the Druids held many of the tenets inculcated in Christianity. Yeah, they had all of the same, many of the same things already were in Druidism that supposedly Christianity was bringing them. Does that not sound exactly what happened when it came to the supposed New World America, which was the old world? When they got here, they realized that, oh my gosh, these natives, these Aborigines know more about Christianity than we do. We can't let everybody know that they already had all this information. They have more understanding about this than we do. We can't let the world know that. So we got to tell them that they're all a bunch of savages and they didn't know anything, and we need to come here in order to teach them. And that's exactly what happened. So it happened here with the Druids, and it happened over here with the natives. So again, the Druids held many of the tenets inculcated in Christianity and the practices and customs of the Christians. The doctrine of immortality of the soul, the belief in miracles, the doctrine of reincarnation, all in those days articles of the Christian faith, had already been imparted to the Britons by their own priests. They were also no strangers to the rite of baptism, which every Christian neophyte had to undergo. Unhappily, Druidism has left behind no literature, no art, existing monuments claim to be Druidical, afford no clue to the social habits of the people, and prove nothing beyond the fact that the people of the period, when that religion held sway, had no taste for the aesthetic arts. Now, do you really believe that they didn't have anything written down? Or you says the Druidism has left behind no literature, no art. You don't think that the Catholics, the Romans, didn't get a hold of our books and hide them for themselves? Because that's what they said that happened to the to the natives here too. Oh, we don't have any of their records. We don't have anything. Yeah, we know they wrote for thousands of years and had all this stuff, but we don't have anything. Yeah, they have it. They hid it. They took what they wanted. They took what they could, and they hid it, and they make it seem like it's theirs. That's all part of the narrative. The Druids didn't know anything. They didn't leave anything, and the natives here didn't leave anything either. Same lies being pushed the whole time. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just a little bit of the information. But as you can see, the Druids were us. You remember in Acts 29, Paul was meeting with the Druids, and he realized that those were his people. Those were the priests. And that's what he was teaching to when he got here as well. Our records, our story is everywhere. And now the Most High is bringing it back to us. At least the ones that have eyes to see and ears to hear. All praise is to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who was wisdom? Who was the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.